So as I was saying, we're going to spend the next 30 minutes talking about a package of resources that you can use for staff development. So I'm not going to be training you in how to work in childcare as an early interventionist, because you guys know we could definitely not cover that in a half an hour. But instead, the resource pop-ups are really designed to take a package of resources that either we've developed here in Virginia, maybe some from other states or other places, put them together in an order that then you can take and easily, we've organized them for you basically, then you can easily use them with your staff, or maybe others in your community, maybe like some of you, if you have 8 other therapy providers, things like that. Now you will see that you are muted. Cameras are mostly off. If you choose to have your camera on, you're welcome to. I have mine on so you can see me, but we ask you to keep your lines muted so that we can cut down on background noise. If you have comments, questions, before we started, we were actually talking about how we've been exercising and kind of keeping active, given that we're all sort of stuck at home right now. You're welcome to type it into chat. In order to find your chat, let me show you that. We're using the Zoom platform, so some of you might be experienced with it, maybe not. Either way, you basically need to know about 2 buttons. If you hover your cursor at the bottom of your screen, you should see a black bar appear. You can see an example on screen. If you click the participant button, it shows you the list of who's on the webinar with you in case you want to see. We're actually not going to use any of the other buttons in that participant box, so you can choose whether or not to open that one. But we will use the chat box. So if you click on your bar down here where you see the chat bubble, that will open up a chat window for you. It usually opens to the right of the slide. And we're at the bottom of the chat window where you see type message here. You can type whatever you want, click enter or return on your keyboard, and that will go out as a group chat so everyone will be able to see it. So feel free to type questions and comments as we go along today. And I'll be keeping an eye on chat too. As I said, I'm recording, so I don't know if your record button might show that on your black bar, but that's just so we can post this on our YouTube channel and have it archived. Okay, so before we go on too far, I wanted to acknowledge something with you. And I wanted to let you know that I know that your staff don't look like this right now, right? Your staff may be spread out. They may be, what did Corey, distance, their distance. Shoot, Corey sent me something earlier. I can't remember what it was called, but
physical distancing.
Well, physical distancing for sure, but your teams are at a distance right now.
Oh yes.
Do you remember, Corey? If you can remember it, type it into chat for me, because
I'll look. Yes, I will look.
We learned this new phrase for all these teams being spread out over a distance earlier. But we know you are trying to keep up with your staff over the phone, over online. A lot of us are working together online. So I know that. What we're going to talk about today is not something you can just pull together for an easy staff meeting right now, unless you're feeling pretty confident about doing that online. And Corey and I are definitely here to support you if that's something you want to do. The resources we've put together, though, can be used at a distance. You can share them with your staff now and facilitate some discussion. So I challenge you to be thinking about that as we go along. The other thing I want to acknowledge is we know that your staff are not actually working with childcare providers right now, because we are many early interventionists are providing tele-intervention, telehealth, it's kind of coming by different names, but are working at a distance supporting caregivers. We had already planned this resource pop-up before the pandemic hit, but we decided to go ahead and hold it because we know supervisors are still wanting their staff to learn, still trying to support professional development. Many of you are focused on professional development around telehealth and teleintervention. And we do have a page on the VEIPD site all around that, so you're welcome to check it out. But we wanted to still go ahead and provide these resources so you can think about how to build capacity with your staff to support childcare providers, especially when they're back at it and back able to go into those childcare settings later on. So just know that I feel you, I know where you are with that. So I hope you'll be able to pull something from this session today that you can either use now or maybe later when life gets back to normal, maybe a new normal, but we will get there. The other thing I wanted you to know is I'm going to show you, I'm going to hop around. You'll see me moving to our web page, showing you different documents and resources. Everything I show you after the session today, I'm going to send you a PDF with hyperlinks. So it will have all the links to everything we're going to see. So don't worry if you don't grab the URL when I mention it, or Corey will pop them into chat. So you're welcome to pull them up and bookmark them that way. But know that you're going to get something after this with all the information too. Distributed teams, that's what it is. Corey put the link to an interesting article about something many of us are doing. Our teams are distributed out, and you guys as supervisors are trying to support your folks wherever they are. So first, let's go ahead and try out chat. I want you to type into chat and let me know about your team. How are things going? Let me know where you are, maybe what your role is if you're in early intervention, or maybe you're here because you're interested, you work with childcare, you know, maybe you're a director in childcare. Type it into chat for us and just let us know, how are you staying in touch with your teams right now? How's that working for you? So remember, hover your cursor at the bottom, click that chat window, and then type into the bottom of the chat where it says Zoom group chat, you'll see type a message here. So let's try out chat real quick. Let me know, how are you keeping up with your teams right now? And if you're not the team leader, let me know, how are you staying in touch with families and with other service providers, your colleagues? Are you guys using platforms like this? So many meetings via Zoom. Yep, Anna says they're using the platform Teams, so probably that Microsoft Teams, Anna. Yep. Stephanie says PT and EI, doing a little telehealth. Families are not as interested in doing it, so she's texting. That's okay, we're all getting creative. Alexandria is providing lengthy remote worker trainings using Teams. Yeah, others are using Teams. That's a kind of popular tool right now. Well, good. So some of you guys have tested out the chat. That's great. Jeanette says keeping in touch. She's using lots of ways to stay in touch. Well, that's exactly what we're all doing, is trying to figure it out, right? Well, let's go ahead and jump into, oh, Zandalee says EI educator, they're using Zoom to connect with families and team. Good. So Zandalee probably knows how to use this tool then. Great. All right, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to start walking through our 6-step plan. So before you end today, you'll have 6 steps for using 5 resources to provide staff development around childcare and EI. So let's go ahead and take a look at resource number 1. So the first resource here is a really awesome video that we didn't produce in Virginia. It's produced out of the Illinois Early Intervention Training Program. The video is almost 11 minutes long, and it's designed to speak to childcare providers. It's a great resource for explaining what early intervention is, what family-centered practices are, and then how we work together and support families whose children are in childcare. Now, when you watch the video with your staff, you will see there is some Illinois-specific information in there, and that's okay. I think really have your staff pay attention to what's universal in early intervention. What I really like too is the last half of the video really focuses on strategies childcare providers can use to work with us and support families. So it's a nice mix of like what to do when the childcare provider has a question, has a concern about development, and then how to work together with the early intervention provider who will be coming into the setting. So I would encourage you to start the conversation with your staff here. Watch the video together, or maybe email it out to them today and ask them to watch it, and then have them send you their insights from the video. What is something they learned maybe, or how does what they heard in the video compare to their experiences working with childcare providers in different settings? What'll probably bubble up is you'll hear challenges. What things are hard? Where are they struggling? But that's a great thing to jot down, get a sense of where your staff are, because you're going to learn things throughout the staff development plan, and have strategies that you can kind of go back to those challenges and try to address them a little later. So after you've kind of laid the foundation, and watch the video, the next step I would encourage you to take is to watch the first of a 2-part webinar series. So back in 2017, we hosted a 2-part series about delivering EI services in childcare settings. The first part of the webinar series really focuses on a little bit of an overview of coaching and natural learning environment practices, but really focuses in on talking about how is that different using those practices in childcare settings versus when you're one-on-one with the parent in the home, which I think is a really nice thing because it acknowledges the reality that it's different and sometimes harder, sometimes a little harder, sometimes a lot. The nice thing about the presenter, Cynthia Core, is a faculty member, but she's also a speech language pathologist. So she shares information about an example of coaching in childcare that goes really well, one that doesn't go so well, and then she talks about different success stories and lots of strategies for using the coaching characteristics that we've all been working hard on the last couple of years and how to apply them in that group setting. So before I go any further, I want to show you where to find these. So you're going to see my screen change, and I'm going to go online. So here you're going to find all of these resources that I'm going to talk about today on the Virginia Early Intervention Professional Development Center. All of them are located on one of our topic pages. So you'll hover your cursor on topics and tools, click on topics and trends, and then you'll scroll down to implementing supports and services. So remember, you're going to get links to all of this, so don't stress if you're like, she's going too fast. If you scroll down on the implementing supports and services you'll see a series of tabs. The video I mentioned is under the video tab. The webinars are linked from the e-learning tab, and the other resources are also available here too. So I will show you those kind of as we go along. So let's get back here. So I would encourage you to have your folks watch the webinar. It's archived. You can either pull them together as a group, maybe when everybody's back in the office, or now you could blast out the email with a link to the Talks on Tuesday recording, have them watch it, and maybe give them some discussion questions as they're watching. Have them jot down notes maybe on what was important to them. What do they still have questions about? What challenges do they face that were or weren't addressed in the webinar? Because that'll give you food for thought for knowing where to go next. So it's a great resource that's archived and easy to access. So once you've kind of got a good sense, you got the discussion going, a good sense of where people are right now, what challenges they're facing, and in this discussion be talking about strategies, you know, we certainly want to get to the point where we're solving some of these challenges. I would encourage you to move on to step 3. So with step 3 here, this is a really good article that's freely available online that you can use in a couple of different ways. So I'm going to switch my screen again so you can see a little bit more about this article. So we're going to find this under the Handouts tab. When you click on the when you scroll down, you will find it, but I'm just going to go ahead and pull it up to make it easy on us today. So this is a case tool article. It's written by Dathan Rush and Melissa Sheldon, kind of our gurus with coaching, right? One of the things I love about this resource is it's geared towards those of us providing early intervention services and the child care providers who are receiving it. So they have information in the article content for both audiences. They talk about coaching, natural learning environment practices, and what does it look like when we're working in inclusive settings where everybody is supporting the child who's eligible for early intervention's ability to participate and join the routines of the classroom. So when they talk about inclusive practices, they are not talking about situations where we are pulling children out of the main classroom into a side room and working with them on their own. We all know that's not good practice. So they're really emphasizing how do we work together and partner with that teacher so that the child has opportunity to participate and be a part of the classroom, and the teacher feels confident knowing how to support the child's development there. So another thing I like about this is there's actually 2 checklists in this document. There's a checklist for early intervention providers, and there's a checklist for child care providers. So I'm going to scroll down and show you the early interventionist version first. So here we go. There's just the title page. Each of these checklists has 3 sections. They have a section on preparing support. So this is what happens before you start working together. So for you guys, early intervention providers, do you know the philosophy of the child care program? And Dathan and Melissa really emphasize the importance of finding out about the prior knowledge and what's the beliefs with the teacher and the program, so we can help match what we're sharing with them to match what their goals are for the program. Do you know the activity settings, how the classroom works? Have you gotten the opportunity to observe? Wouldn't it be awesome if we could observe the child in the classroom as part of functional assessment? I know that's not typically what we are able to do, but wow, what a great practice to get a sense of the child's strengths and needs where they spend time during the day. So the nice thing here is you've got yes, no answers, pretty straightforward, and then a plan. For anything you click no on, there's a place to think about it. How could you improve or move toward that practice? You've also got information about providing supports, really good stuff like observing the teacher, intentionally modeling, and I love this one. Are you focused more on supporting the teacher than working directly with the child? I love that one. So you have the last section here is planning follow-up support. So how can you develop that joint plan so the teacher knows what to do and the family between visits? So here's my idea. I think after you've watched the video, done the webinar, have your staff read the article and then have them fill out the checklist as a self-reflection opportunity. You can have them do it individually and then share it with the group. You could have them do it individually and email it to you with their comments and their plan for what they want to do differently. I think this is a great opportunity for them to see a list of good practices and think about how do they fit into their work? Are they doing them? Where do they need to improve? Because everybody's going to need to improve somewhere, and that's okay. You could also figure out where people have yeses and nos, and that maybe some of the people with the yeses could partner up with some of the people with the nos for some peer support. Go together on the visits once we start doing visits out in natural environments again. So there's lots of ways to use this tool. If you're feeling especially brave, share the childcare version with the childcare providers in your locality. You could also use this childcare version as a training tool. So if you're asked to come into a childcare center to train the staff on early intervention, you could weave this in as a way to help the childcare providers learn how are we supposed to work together and what might that look like. So it's a really fantastic resource. All right. So let's see. So Corey probably plopped that into, into the chat, but no, this checklist is also linked from our implementing supports and services page, and you'll find it under tools, under the tools tab. It's actually right there, right at the second one. All right, so you've done the checklist. I had the opportunity for self-reflection. Now we're going to move on to step 4. Step 4, we're actually going to have staff watch the second part in that webinar series. And the second part in the webinar series is where you can see here it says, let's get real. We really tried to focus in on more real world scenarios and how to problem solve them. And in fact, we had some other service providers join us. We had Patty Miller, who's on our one of our participants today. Patty was a developmental service provider, and Andy's an OT. She's also a master coach here in Virginia. So they joined us to really kind of have a panel discussion to talk about some challenges and how to overcome them. So some of the challenges for you to know, in case these really ring true with your staff, in this webinar, we talked about what do you do when the teacher wants you to work with the child and the teacher is removed, kind of seems uninterested, or maybe doesn't really know what his or her role is. What do you do when the teacher wants you to pull the child out of the classroom? How do you manage when you're in a chaotic classroom? And maybe you're there to work on behavior, but you see the environment is contributing to the behavior concerns. And then what do you do when you're supporting a child with multiple disabilities in a child care setting and trying to help the teacher improve that child's ability to participate and be a part of the group? So this one is a really great webinar for lots of tips and strategies. So I would encourage you to have your staff watch this version, jot notes about what tips and strategies they hear that could help them address the challenges that were mentioned when you started this effort with that video in the first webinar. So you're kind of helping them get a little more and more specific in their knowledge and finding their own tips and strategies in these resources to help their own practices. So the resources I've shown you so far were really about your own staff development, right? I'm going to show you the next one is staff development, but also is one you can use with your community partners in childcare. So a month or so ago, we released a new resource packet called the Childcare and Early Intervention Information Package. You can see there's lots of documents in here, and it's accessible on our page. So I'm going to show you that, and I'm actually going to walk you through it. You'll find it on the Handouts page, Handouts tab. I'm going to scroll down again, so watch your eyeballs. You can find this package as one complete PDF, or you can find links to the individual documents in case maybe you only need one document or two. They're all PDFs, but if you find that you would really like to have one as a Word document so you can adapt it for your program, just shoot me an email and I'll send it to you. Most of them are available as Word documents, so that shouldn't be too hard. So let's take a look at it. So the first resource in the Child Care and Information Package is a letter to a director. And we really tried to emphasize partnering, you'll see here. We tried to emphasize that we want to work directly in the classroom with the teacher and child and join whatever the teacher's doing when we're there. So we wanted to set the stage with the director and owner to be a partner. This next resource is kind of like one of my favorites. This is an infographic that you'll find really explains the child care provider's role in partnering with the early intervention service provider. So I can see you sharing this, the service coordinator could share it with the provider. You could use this with families, all kinds of cool ways, and especially maybe even on a first visit to help the early intervention provider convey to the child care provider, how can we work together? And make sure that child care provider understands our goal, which is working with the child care provider so he or she knows what to do between visits. Next resource is a what to expect during an early intervention visit in a child care center. So this is laid out with coaching in mind. We didn't use a lot of coaching language because we wanted to use common language that most people would feel comfortable with, but it's a good resource to share. Next one, we have a 2-page information gathering form. So say you could give this to the family, they could give it to the child care provider. The child care provider could fill it out, give you lots of good information about routines, what goes well, what's hard. Second page talks about interactions, what's the child's strengths and challenges, and then send that back to you through the family so you'd have this information. Wouldn't it be awesome if you had it before you wrote IFSP outcomes and looked at service delivery? But it's just a great way to check in with that child care provider who's really an important caregiver for kids, right? And I want to give a shout out to Infant and Toddler Connection of Fairfax Falls Church, who originally developed the document. Stanton Waynesboro, that's a program that helped me with tweaking it. We've had a lot of programs take a look at this, so it's a great resource. We have an early intervention visit summary, which could be your joint plan document that you could fill out with the teacher, leave in a folder in the classroom, and that's something that could be shared with other teachers, how teachers come in and out later throughout the day, and also shared with the family. And then we have an early intervention communication log, again, maybe going in a folder in the classroom, so there's communication between the child care provider, the early intervention provider, and the family. Everybody's staying in the loop. And I like that there's a place here for the response. So if the family wants to jot a note, it would be there for you next time you came. 2 pages on that one. And then the final document is a resource document. Whoops, sorry about that, with hyperlinks, that things we thought childcare provider staff might find useful. So I've been talking a while. I want to invite you guys to type into chat and let me know how you could see using this packet with your staff and with your community partners. So go ahead and type into chat some ideas. How do you think you could use this? And I'm going to check in on chat. Crick says it's a great worksheet. It would definitely help gather more information for goal writing or sharing progress with families who might not be able to join as many sessions at daycare. Yeah, that information gathering sheet could be a really good resource. Actually, a lot of these you could, if you use them together, get that good information and keep the family in the loop. So Stephanie asks, is the family given the questionnaire by the service coordinator at intake if the child care setting might be an appropriate place for services? So the family can bring it to the evaluation. I think that's a great idea, Stephanie. You absolutely could give this to the family at intake, ask the family to share it with the child care provider, and then give it back to you afterwards. You could, if the family was comfortable with it, provide an envelope and that's already stamped, so the child care provider could just mail it back to you. However you want to handle that, I think that would be a fantastic idea. So what are some other ideas for how you might be able to use components of this resource? Let's see. So Patty says she could see using it with childcare staff to give them all a better idea of what EI is like, how they can partner with providers as there's been a disconnect. Yeah, I've certainly heard that it's not always easy for everybody to understand how everybody's supposed to work together. So this can provide you with a foundation for learning together, especially early on when you're building that really important rapport. Zandali says she thinks it'd be wonderful for the child care setting. She likes the log and can see this helping with communication so that everybody's on the same page. That's absolutely the intention here, Zandali, so I appreciate that comment for sure. Well, let me show you guys the last step in our process here. So you're building that rapport, getting some good information out to your child care partners, and then here's the last step. Step 6, I would encourage you to do later, like months down the road. So I would encourage you to have your staff go back to the checklist, maybe a month, I would even say longer, like 3 months down the road, after you've completed the other activities. Have them go back and do the self-reflection again. Have them look and see where did they have yeses that have changed to nos? Do they have still some things they want to work on? Because the idea of checking in on yourself. Doing that reflection is really important to changing practices. And learning across time is as important as well. So if you can stretch this learning opportunity over time, you're going to be more likely to see positive changes with your staff. And it's kind of easy to do because you already have the checklist, a great tool ready for you. It's also a great way for you as a supervisor to check in and see, how are your staff feeling? Do they still need support? And then you can figure out where to focus that. So that is it, you guys. That is it. All of our resources are available on the Topics and Trends page, not the Topics and Trends page. Sorry, that's another great page. The Topics and Trends, remember I said the Implementing Supports and Services page. Everything is linked there, but remember I'm going to send you a PDF that has all of these links when we're done. I'm also going to send you in that email a link to a survey. I would really appreciate it if you would take just a few minutes after today, after we're done, and send me feedback on the pop-up today and let me know how it went, if you liked it, and what suggestions you have for improvement or for future topics. The survey shouldn't take you but just a few minutes, and then you'll have everything you need. So I want to thank you guys for taking the time, for giving me a half an hour of your time today. This will be archived on our VEIPD videos page, so it's on our YouTube channel. If anybody needs it, has any trouble finding it, if you want to share it with others in your community, all you got to do is email me and I'm happy to help make sure you find it. Corey's posted the link. It says a Survey Monkey link in the chat. If you want to click it now, you can go ahead and knock that survey out, and then just keep an eye out for my email within the next half an hour or so with your handout. So you've got my email on screen. If you need me for anything else, the professional development team is certainly here to support you. So thanks everybody, and thank you. I see your comments in chat. Stephanie, I'm so glad. I appreciate you said appreciate compiling it all in one place. That's the idea, Stephanie. We want to make it easier for you guys to support your staff. Anna said, thanks, Anna. Awesome. I'm so glad you guys were all able to join us. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll hang out for a few minutes in case you have any questions, but enjoy your day. And of course, stay well. Everybody stay well. Wash those hands, right? And stay well.